Meeting called to order.
What time?
7:20 or 7:17.
6:17.
Or 6:16. There we go.
You can read, you just want to see.
I just can't see. Can't see it very well, but it's there.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible.
Sure. Boring start. So I have to ask if there's a need for an executive session at this time. Yes, and there is a need for the executive session at this time. So we will take a brief meeting and adjourn at 6:18. How's that?
Motion.
Motion,
So moved.
second?
Second.
Discussions?
Contractual.
Any opposed? Staying? So moved. We'll be back, folks. Correspondence, none. Policies for first reading, none. Policies for second reading, none. Comments from the public. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to convene into the public comment period of our meeting. Although state law does not require us to hold a public comment period, we have chosen to do so because we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members and their concerns and issues. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed to be a discussion. Accordingly, please do not expect the board to respond to your concerns and questions tonight. This is because we take our concerns and questions seriously and want to have sufficient time to process and research issues if need be. We will, however, respond to your questions and concerns at a future meeting or have the proper staff member get back to you at the appropriate time. Ms. Forkey will be keeping track of questions and make sure that they are passed to the appropriate persons. I also want to point out that under state and federal privacy laws, we are unable to entertain any comments or questions about school personnel. Please know, however, that we take personnel concerns very seriously. On these matters, we would ask you to go through the appropriate administrative channels. Finally, we recognize that right now, our nation and community are polarized on a number of issues. That said, we want our school board meetings to serve as an example to our students that members of our school board and members of our community can deal with controversial issues in a civil manner and demonstrate mutual respect for one another. In that spirit, we will insist that all speakers and members of the audience maintain civility and respect for our divergent views that others possess. We ask that speakers please address their comments to the board directly rather than the audience. In the unlikely event that the meeting becomes unruly, the board will recess the meeting and return once order has been restored. The board will now entertain public comments. Each individual speaker is allowed at 3 minutes. The individual time limits will be enforced so that as many members of the public who wish to speak may be allowed to do so. Please state your name and residency before you begin. With that said, would anybody like to speak to the board?
Yes, please. Eric Scully, resident of Whitney Point. I'd like to thank Stacy, Joanne, Bob Wolf, and School Resource Officer Noyes. Sent a request on behalf of the fire department to pick up student Haley Dickel, senior, on her last day in a fire truck. Sent the message originally to Stacy. She worked it around the loop. Everyone got together and approved it. They sent the happy news back to me. And we did arrive and pick her up her very last day of school in the fire truck. Her family, and all of us at the fire department, thank you guys for allowing that to happen. She said the greatest day of her life got greater. And the smile on that kid's face was truly contagious. It was awesome. She was in tears by the time she got home. So thank you guys for making a special day even greater. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Scully, and for all those who supported that process. I feel bad because I'm not looking well. Does anybody else like to speak to the board? Again, there will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting, and we appreciate your comments. At this time, I will give the microphone to Ms. Sexton for commendations.
Okay, we have lots of commendations. There's been much going on. The Whitney Point Art and Music Departments and the Music Booster Club for organizing the District Art Show and Ice Cream Social held on June 8th, 2022. It would be cold in January. Thank you also to those who donated their time to help make this great event happen. It was an incredible turnout, and it was a beautiful night. Thank you to everyone. All of the Whitney Point students who displayed their talents through their artwork and choral and band performances at the District Art Show and Ice Cream Social, and the families and community for showing their support for our students. Mrs. Guzman, Ms. Macaluso, and the CEA faculty and staff for bringing back Kinderville, giving our kindergarten students an opportunity to learn about community and how everyone has their own important parts in any successful community. Mrs. Guzman, Ms. Macaluso for organizing a car seat safety. Well, I think that didn't Beth and Julia also do that? Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you, Stacey. Yes, Beth and Julia organized the car seat safety that took place on Saturday morning, June 11th. We had lots of people tabling for that event. So not only could you have a car seat correctly fitted, get a car seat, you also could learn about all the other resources in the community. And some of the people who came on that morning were Head Start at Whitney Point, some local churches, both Catholic and Methodist churches were there. Representatives from WIC, Family Enrichment Network, Mothers and Babies, Perinatal Network, Broome County Health Department, Fidelis Care, and the PACT program all had tables and with lots of resources on it. And that was a beautiful morning too. And you're going to sit out and meet and greet each other. One of the nice things that people said that morning was they got to connect with people, and Rural Health Network was there also. And they got to connect with each other and do some networking and see how they could work together to help families in our community. So that was kind of nice too. Mr. Sweeney, Mrs. Monaco, Mrs. Turner, Mr. Ellerson, Mr. Pacone, Mr. Nardosi, Ms. Thomas, Mr. and Mrs. Noyes, Mrs. Gillette, as well as all the students who attended for a memorable prom on June 11th, 2022. Mrs. Buss, Mrs. Champney, and the after prom committee, high school administrators, faculty and staff, and all the other volunteers who worked together to make sure we had a fun-filled after prom party. Mr. Sweeney, Ms. Sexton, Mrs. Gillette, and Whitney Point High School faculty and staff for the successful high school awards and scholarship ceremony. High school juniors Brenna Bow and Ava Morgan for their assistance in presenting awards, and the many people and organizations for their scholarships to the Whitney Point High School graduating seniors. The ceremony was held on June 13th, 2022. Congratulations to all of our recipients. Ms. Thomas and the Yearbook Club for coordinating the top 20 display case located outside the high school auditorium. Our community salutes and the Kiwanis Club of Conklin for recognizing area students who have chosen to enter military service post-graduation for the 2022 First to Say Thank You program. Whitney Point High School seniors Grayson Ayers is going to the U.S. Air Force, Alex Dickel is going to the U.S. Army, and Kenny Pagos is going into the Marines. They were all honorees at that ceremony. The ceremony was held June 15th at Windsor High School. And that too was a lovely event. Broome Tioga Association of Chief School Administrators for hosting the 31st annual Broome Tioga Scholastic Dinner held on June 16, 2022 at Traditions of the Glen. Whitney Point valedictorian Jane Austenfeld and salutatorian Lindsay Davis were honored, and their families were honored, along with all the other valedictorians and salutatorians from the Broome Tioga Boise region. It was a very nice event also. And Mr. Whalen, Mrs. LaMarelia, and the Tayac Neoga Riverside Academy faculty for their successful award ceremony and formal dance held Friday, June 17th, 2022 for 8th grade.
Sorry, that was me.
Oh,
I turned the button on too fast.
okay. And that's it for commendation.
The microphones they are quite aggressive, aren't they? There we go. I guess you have to turn on and off separately. That's okay. I'm a technology teacher. This just makes me feel happy, that's all. Okay, old business, and thank you, Joanne, for those accommodations. Appreciate that. Old business, we have none. New business. Okay, here I go, Stephanie. Approval of consent agenda. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the following consent agenda items. A, Board of Education meeting minutes. B, resignation Marcus Malzahn, cleaner, effective June 1st, 2022. Resignation Danette Griffith, Board Trustee, effective June 14th, 2022. Resignation Aaron Mahoney, cleaner, effective June 24th, 2022. E, snack bid award to Renzi Brothers Food in Ginsburger for 2022-2023 school year as prepared by Boomtown Bosse's Food Service Program. And F, Committee on Special Education Recommendations. Moved by Tom, second. Questions or?
We have to remove one thing from the consent agenda.
Well, it's Stephanie vote, is she here? As long as she can vote. then it's
Can you
fine.
guys hear me?
Yep,
Okay,
so Eddie, you'll have to abstain just because
Okay.
of Marcus, but yeah, everything else.
Okay.
Okay. So, did I get a second yet, though?
Yeah.
Right.
Brian, okay, thank you, Brian. All in favor?
aye,
Nays? Abstains?
Aye.
Thank you. Resolution to create a position, be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District, create one position of personnel/payroll coordinator effective June 22nd, 2022, and subject to meeting civil service requirements. Moved. Brian, thank you. Second,
Second.
Eddie? Any discussion?
So this is a current position we already have in the district. This is the current position held by Lori Mudge. We appointed her 2 years ago. Civil service wise, she's currently listed as a deputy claims auditor, which is an exempt position, and we appointed her as our benefits coordinator. Again, just in how her role really is laid out, it's definitely more benefit oriented than the claims auditing section. So again, just to align all that in civil service world to make everyone happy, we have to create this position that is new for Whitney Point, and then once it's created, there's a little bit more paperwork on the civil service end, but then we'll reappoint Lori, who's currently the deputy claims auditor / benefits coordinator, into this new civil service title.
Thank you, Zach. Any other questions by the board?
Oh, thanks. I was wondering, I was gonna ask, I was like,
Yeah.
don't we do this already?
Yeah.
Oh, no, so that other position will just be left open, or do we have to
Yeah.
delete that position?
It was before CBO, we had a lot more claims auditing stuff that we did here, but once CBO took over, they have their own claims auditor, but they can't audit their own bills for BOCES, so we still had to have one appointed at the district, and that was Lori's role, which again, technically fell under a civil service title, but this title is really more in line with what her workload is, so we would just have that claims auditor still appointed to Lori, but civil service wise, she would fall under this title.
So she'll cover them both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor?
aye,
Nigel, I'm doing this. Sorry, Steph. Nays? Abstains? Approved. I think it says I'm supposed to move the addenda at this time. So we'll go to the addenda, extra classroom activity report, be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the May 2022 extracurriculum classroom activity fund report. So moved. Moved. That's right. Tom, second. Eddie. Any discussion?
This would typically be on a consent agenda, but we did get the bank statement in time last week, so we got it this week. Well, today, so that's on the agenda.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay? Abstain. Be it resolved, should I go to number 2, Stacy, appointments? Yeah, it does, yeah, it's fine, okay. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approved a 4-year probationary appointment for Ashley Catafamo? Calfamo, thank you, elementary special education teacher in the special education teacher tenure area effective September 1st, 2022. The probationary period of September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2026 is tentative and conditional only, except to the extent required by the applicable provisions of section 3012 of the education law. In order to be granted tenure, the teacher must receive a composite or overall annual performance review ratings pursuant to the education law, section 3012-D, of either effective or highly effective for the required number of years. And if the teacher receives an ineffective composite or overall rating in the final year of the probationary period, the teacher shall not be eligible for tenure at this time. Can I have motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Any discussion?
We had a number of special ed openings. This one is partially from what was Christine Gregoire, and then partially is going to be a CPSE provider for preschool special ed.
Thank you. Any more discussion from the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Nay? Abstained. Stephanie, did you hear us? Well, we have a quorum here, so we're fine. Stephanie, just so you know, we can't hear you if you can hear us.
I can hear you
Okay,
now.
we didn't hear your vote.
I know, like things are acting up.
Okay,
I mean, I do approve if you're still talking about the special ed teacher, I do approve it.
thank you. We do have a quorum here, so we won't get over anxious, Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay, should we go on to positions or should I wait on Stacy go back over appointments? Okay. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the appointment of Alyssa Lewis, term substitute special education teacher for the 2022-2023 school year effective September 1st, 2022, pending completion of certificate. Have a motion? Thank you, Eddie. Second? Thank you, Brian. Any discussion?
So this position, you may know, and you may have heard me say, and I'm sure you just know that there's a real shortage in special ed teachers. So she is a certified teacher, but she's going to get her extension in special ed. So she will be finished during the course of the year.
We have a lot of students doing that extension, right?
Well, I think everybody should, if they want to help.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstains? Approved. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, that the Board of Education of the Whitney Point Central School District approve the appointment of Destiny Gardner, term substitute special education teacher for the 2022-2023 school year effective September 1st, 2022, pending completion of certificate. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion?
So this also is a certified teacher who's getting an extension. She has done long-term sub positions for us in the past, and she should be certified by the end of the school year. And this is, I didn't say the last one was to replace Violet Davis. This is to replace Jim Hogan.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstains? Approved. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education of the Whitney Point Central School District approve the 4-year probationary appointment of Young Yu or Daisy Yu, instructional support teacher in the math teacher tenure area effective September 1st, 2022. The probation period of September 1st, 2022 through August 31st, 2026 is tentative and conditional only, except to the extent required by the applicable provisions of section 3012 of the education law. In order to be granted tenure, the teacher must receive composite or overall annual performance review ratings pursuant to the education law section 3012-D of either effective or highly effective for the required number of years. And if the teacher receives an ineffective composite or overall rating in the final year of the probationary period, the teacher shall not be eligible for the tenure at that time. Do I have a motion? Is that Eddie? Eddie, a second? Thank you, Brian. Any discussion?
This was the position that we created last time, intervention support for students who are trying to get back on track in math. You mentioned that this person plans on being here short term, is a certified math teacher, so her appointment does need to be with all of that language.
Thank you. Any more discussion by the board? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Abstains? Approved. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the following list of grade/department chairpersons and team leaders for the 2022-2023 school year. Please note asterisk means that they are sharing those duties. Grade chairperson, kindergarten, Kimberly Fitchen, kindergarten, Cheryl Russell. Grade 1, Logan DeRusso, grade 1, Ann Lloyd, grade 2, Jessica Head, grade 2, Angelia DeVito, and I really do apologize if I kill anybody's name. Grade 3, Stephanie Abrahamson. Grade 3, Christy Croft Driscoll. Grade 4, Cheryl Denali. No, that's not right.
Irish.
Grade 5, Christy, somebody help me, Passanino Zabaldi. Zabadal, thank you, folks. Middle school team leaders, grade 6, Renee Zennetter, okay. Grade 7, Jackie Bucinio. Thank you. Oh my goodness, my students don't love me at school either. I have to learn names. Grade 8, Julia Rossis. Okay. Grade 8, Kevin Gatorus. TRA, Encore Health, Amy Alston. Department chairs, 6th through 8th mathematics, Michael Giovenco. 6 through 8 social studies, Kim Becker. 6 through 8 science, Jackie Lucinel. 6 through 8 ELA, Renee Zanader. High school English, Holly Holbrook /Rice. High school mathematics, Teresa, okay. Monaco, okay. High school science, Ethan Leet. High school social studies, Jamie Monaco. 6th through 12th career education, Lisa Thomas. K-12 art, Will Manville. District pupil personnel services, Anne Marie Holt. K-12 music, Ken Jones. K-12 music, Jennifer Haynes. TRA high school world language department, Paula Kupiak. Is it Kupiak? Kupiak, okay. K-6 special services, Michael Williams. 7-12 special service, Randy Bellinger. And health offices, Jessica Burke. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Tom. He's smiling at me. Second. Thank you, Brian. Any discussion?
Just as you know, these people do very important work. We expect a lot of them, so that's why a lot of them want to share their responsibilities.
I did have one quick question actually about this one. I see that periodically we have teachers serving that haven't met tenure yet, which is great that we see young teachers stepping up. Do we always make sure they're ready and prepared and being supported well enough?
So the only one that I think we have in that situation is the one, yep, and she is supported and we needed somebody to help out and she, while is new to our district, has worked very closely with us for a number of years in our partner agency, so we had confidence that she would be able to take
I
that.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, but in general practice, we don't normally do that.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstains? Approved. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education of Whitney Point School District approve the following technology integrators for the 2022-2023 school year. Michael Williams, Nadine Ferguson, Jean Jordan, Kara DeTondo. Again, asterisks are splitting positions and stipends. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Eddie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Brian. Any discussion? I would just like to say these people have been doing a great job and I appreciate everything they do as a board director. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Abstains? Approved. Bus Driver Association Agreement. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the employment agreement between the Chief Executive Officer and the Whitney Point Bus Drivers Association effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eddie. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nays? Abstains? Approved. Marathon Central School District Agricultural Program Agreement. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the agreement between the Marathon Central School District and Whitney Point Central School District effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Eddie. Any discussion?
Again, this is an agreement we started with Marathon a few years ago. We don't offer an ag program at our district, but they have a good program out there. Every year we see what kids might be interested. This past year we had 3 that participated. So again, a very mutually beneficial agreement. We transport the kids up there. They charge us basically the net cost of what a BOCES program slot is after aid. So in comparison, it's about like $2,000 a kid to go up there. So very nice of them, and it's a great agreement. We're happy to extend it.
I just want to say I appreciate that this is being offered. It works out great for everybody. It just extends what we have to offer here. So thank you for offering it. I think it's great. And thank you to Marathon.
Thanks to
for
Marathon, yeah.
Thank you definitely to Marathon for offering to let the students in. So
Mhm.
Any other discussion or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay? Abstains? Approved. Bus use request. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the request from Whitney Point Preschool and Daycare for bus use from July 15th, 2022 to August 26th, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Tom. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion? Is this for the summer program or just?
Yeah, and they do it every summer.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Approved. Treasurer's report. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education, Whitney Point Central School District approved the May 2022 treasury report. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Eddie. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Any discussion?
Yep, we pulled this one out separate. Again, this is normally one that's in the consent agenda, but I guess I would like the board members, if you could, to flip to a few pages in there. Just wanted to give you guys a little more background. So give you a minute if you can locate that. And what I would like to show you first would be on page 16. and I think you guys can see, and this is about the cafeteria performance. Again, we try to give you at least that annual update where we specifically, let you know how the cafeteria fund is doing. So this is again a financial outlook through April. And prior to the COVID situation, I think we knew the cafeteria fund was always running a deficit balance. Mainly, staffing issues with insurance, whatnot, and how the meals got reimbursed. It was just the way it kind of always worked around here. We also had, there's no meal shaming, so a lot of kids would charge lunches and never actually pay for them. So the district basically, we send letters, which don't go too far, but we always write off about 20,000 a year too, and just food that never got paid for. But when COVID hit, I guess one good thing you can say out of all that is again free meals for all. So if you can kind of look at page 16, this does last year and current year to date. Just performance report. Last year, again, we were offering free food on weekends, 7 days a week through holiday breaks. Basically, if you needed food, you could get it. This past year, they did away with the vacations and the weekend meals. But you can see if you go down to our net surplus totals at the bottom last year, and again, just unbelievable how many meals were served. But also with an increased reimbursement rate, our cafeteria fund had a positive surplus of $230,000, which was amazing. Again, really replenished where that fund balance was headed, made it healthy. We've been buying a lot of equipment that they needed for a while out of that this past year. You can see this current year, even with the slightly reduced reimbursement rates and not offering 7 meals a week, we still are looking at $136,000 profit, which again for that fund in general is amazing. So basically, you always want these to be self-sustaining. So I think it's amazingly finally in that place where it can be. It allows us really again just to offer whatever we can, get the latest greatest equipment, and have it adequately staffed, which is a good thing. So I wanted to point that out to you guys.
Could I just interject something with that real quick?
Yeah.
I just want to commend the food service because as soon as the pandemic hit, and I'm going to be biased, they've worked weekends, they've worked nights, they worked every day, they worked over the summer, they worked through breaks that other people were off. I think that they probably have worked as much or more than anybody in the district since this started. So there's a lot of money coming in, but I want to thank them that they did a lot of that work and to make that come in. So kudos to the food service department for the last 2 years.
And like during the worst part of it, like they did it with a smile on their face.
Yeah.
They did a cheery welcome to everybody who pulled in. I mean, they were like
Yep.
completely enthusiastic and
Yeah, definitely community effort. It's awesome to see you be a part of. Even the people that couldn't make it here, we found a way to get them the meals. So
Yep.
it was great.
Thank you.
So that was one page. Yes, specifically I wanted to go over. And then the main reason why we pulled it out, again, this is that typical year-end resolution where any of the money that's left over, basically, surplus for the year, we have to have a place to put that money. The last page of the treasurer's report, again, this gives you the detailed breakdown of all of our reserve accounts. Again, a lot of these have various rules and legal requirements of how they're funded, what can go in them, and how you can spend that money out of them. So this last page is again that summary of it. It also shows what our financial plan is for this year. You guys remember during the budget vote, we had that new proposition on there to create that repair reserve. So that approved. So what we're doing is again, 500,000 is going to fund that newly created repair reserve. There was a newer reserve about 3 or 4 years ago created through legislative action to have a teacher's retirement system reserve. Again, there's always been an employees retirement system reserve, which basically covers all near state employees besides teachers. And there was always an avenue to have funding of that pension expense, but never was there one for teachers until 3 or 4 years ago. But the way that they wrote it out, you can only fund it so much, specifically 2% of the prior year teacher salaries at a time. So we're still trying to get that up to there to where it would match our teachers' retirement contribution on an annual basis. But again, it's just a good other mechanism to have for your savings account. So when we do have those bad budget years, which we haven't in last year or two, thankfully, that is a place where you don't have to budget for the school funds to general fund to pay for that, but you can dip into that reserve and offset that cost. So again, just planning for that rainy day, that's a great thing to do. So that amount, 196,000 is the maximum we can put in there, which would then give that account roughly $800,000 going forward. And then this was actually exciting. We weren't exactly sure where this would end up. Again, just year-end needs and everything going on. I think we said all along, part of the reason why we went with the 0% tax levy increase. We were in a good financial place. We also just health insurance in general, moving that retiree population to Medicare Advantage plans. We had a lot of realized savings this fiscal year. So I know we just went out in the capital project last year where we put $2.7 million to offset any local share, and that's how we're going to be able to do this amazing capital project with the turf field, pool, UK edition, all that. We're looking at, we could put, and it's written up to $1 million into this capital reserve for a future capital project, which again, just continually maintains that cycle of being able to do renovations and not have to go out for a tax increase. The reason it says up to, it really goes down to like June 30th, the last day of the year, of what's coming in for purchases and encumbrances that we're looking at for fuel. So in reality, it can't be more than $1 million, but it'll probably be in the $900,000 range that we'll put back in the capital reserve fund, which again has $689,000 in there left. So we have about $1.6 million for a future capital project, which again would be great when we go down that road and see what we can do.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning. We're slowly adding that. So again, that's why the charge report was pulled out. The next few resolutions you'll see, it's actually to allowing us to put the money into those reserves, but I wanted to give you the background on that. Any questions?
Thank you. That makes it very understandable.
Stephanie, do you have any questions?
Nope, I do not.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay? And abstained. So moved. Reserve resolution. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of the Whitney Point Central School District does and hereby approve the following reserve transactions for the 2021-2022 school year. Funding of the retirement contribution reserve subfund A828 in the amount of $196,500. How do I say that? But I got it right. Okay. For future teacher retirement systems, TRS expenses, source of the funds is unassigned fund balance A917. Funding of the capital reserve A879 upon the amount of $1 million. Source of funds is the unassigned fund balance A917. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have any discussion?
Just thank you for doing all that and coming up with all this to,
Yeah.
It's nice after all the years of being on the board to actually see something proactive instead of reactive in the district, and a way to maybe make it so we have some funding available for when maybe some of those downturns come back. So
We know their cycle, our cycle low, and they will be here, but I'd be more concerned if we had this meeting tonight, didn't have anything of assigning funds into our reserve or savings accounts, to be perfectly honest. So that's a good sign.
but I mean, working it all out with everybody that's involved with doing that, thank you. That I really appreciate that.
Well, and like, so being here long enough, like, instead of going from crisis to back and forth pendulum, like, no money, then you have some money, and then if you need repairs, the repair reserve, or you want to do a project, you just don't have the basic foundation for it. So taking seriously that we're the stewards of the district's property.
Any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, abstains, so moved. Whitney Point 2022-2023-01 janitorial supplies. Whereas the Whitney Point Central School District did open the public bid according to the general municipal law, the following bid, WP 2022-2023-01 janitorial supplies, and whereas the bids were publicly opened and read on June 9th, 2022, at 2 p.m. in the BOCES Central Business Office. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools and the purchasing agent that the bid for the janitorial supplies be awarded to the various vendors based on line-by-line bid award as per attached sheet. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Eddie. Do I have a second? Thank you, Brian. Do you have any questions or discussion?
This is a pretty annual resolution we do. Again, as soon as July 1 hits, we order all our janitorial supplies for the year. But it's even more important, I think, now with the escalating inflation, to lock in those prices. So we put everything we could in there for the year, and overall, it was fairly good and well received. So we were happy.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Nays, abstains, approved. I'm going to move over to the agenda, for the last two items there. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent of the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the following 2022-2023 fall coaching recommendations. Cheerleading varsity position is currently open. Football varsity assistant position is currently open. Modified A, David Horton. Modified A, assistant Ethan Leet. Modified A, assistant position open. Girls swimming varsity modified position open. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have any discussion? Looks like we need some positions filled. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay, abstained, approved. Be it resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education of Whitney Point Central School District approve the following grade person chair for 2022-2023 school year, pre-kindergarten, Tracy Pfeiffer. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second? Thank you, Eddie. All right. Any discussion?
The application just came in at a different time, so we didn't put it in there.
Yeah, I guess it was just a different.
Clerical.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nay, abstained, so moved. And now we'll move on to the superintendent's update. Let me turn off my microphone.
So a couple of things. One, it's, we're moving towards graduation. It has been a very, very busy couple of weeks. I think every single night of the week, there's been something wonderful happening, either having to do with our graduates or just celebratory for the other grades. I wanted to just make a couple of comments. I think that some of you know, the last 2 years, beginning of the pandemic, the Booster Club got banners to put out in front of the TRA, and they were, I thought, super beautiful. And that happened in a lot of other schools this year. We decided that we would make that our tradition, that we would take that over. And kind of late in the game, we were approached by some people who had some concerns about the fact that we put all our beautiful students' faces out there with their names. And we have very heavy traffic coming through town, not really just local traffic, just because of the on off with 81. And so, surprising, because I like to think I think of these things. I had not ever really thought about it that way. And we actually, unfortunately, have had a very big uptick in, not very savory people trying to contact our students and target them and take advantage of them. So we thought, well, we better not do that. So we, Mr. Sweeney actually looked and worked with, I think a student is the one who connected you with what happened in some other districts. And we decided to change our plan for the banners and have there's sort of like this senior walk down the hallway, and it's actually very nice in the hallways. And the plan is to have which I hope we can have outdoor graduation that will put the banners outside on the fences for graduation, because then all those people would be invited attendees, you know, of the families of the children, and then students be able to take the banners home. We did get one banner that just says congratulations to Whitney Point seniors, that we can change the year every year. It's a little smaller than I thought it was going to be, so we may look to do something else that's more general and just celebratory and not giving away any, you know, specific information about our students. Again, we, you know, obviously don't ever want to do anything that could possibly expose students to somebody who had malintent. So unfortunately, you hate to have a situation where a few not great people ruin something that was, I thought, very lovely, but that's the reason for that. And then just along the lines, again, with graduation, our hope is to be outside. That has been nice to have that be outside the last few years, but if the weather is looking iffy, we probably can't risk it. We will continue to have it for people to watch remotely. But we did that even before the pandemic, and that's nice, so that relatives from far and wide can watch the ceremony. And Mr. Sweeney, I think tomorrow is the day we will decide based on the weather reports, which way we're gonna go.
Supposed to be nice.
That's right now, right? Mr. Sweeney said he doesn't have a lot of faith in their predictions, but.
And the gym is air conditioned.
And the gym is air conditioned, which would make that much nicer. So
When will they post the link, Joanne, for families?
we usually do it on that day, and it's right on our website, and then you can just, you know, watch it right there.
Safety turn right now. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we will have our second opportunity for comments from the public. Please remember all that I read before, and is there any other comments from the public that would like to be made? Thank you, Murphy.
I just wanted to celebrate the senior student athletes that were recognized at the college showcase and the field hockey team for their ring ceremony and jacket ceremony. There was a lot of people behind the scenes that made that happen, from Mrs. Ellerson in the athletic department to the custodian setting everything up, to the food service providing nice refreshments, to the Eagles Nest Booster Club, to technology, to Maggie Gilroy, to the press. So there's a lot of behind the scenes to make those beautiful events for those student athletes, and they were really great 2 nights, and we were blessed with a nice evening outside. So I hope Mr. Sweeney and the seniors are as well for graduation. But I just wanted to acknowledge those students for their accomplishments.
I think we had the senior showcase on the last meeting, right? We just did it, but the field hockey, it was beautiful.
Right, it was, yeah. And the pictures on Facebook were amazing. So thank you, Murphy, for everything you've done for everyone.
I just wanted to, those are special events that are really enjoyable. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public at this time? Thank you, Dan.
I'm grateful that the prom committee was recognized. Ms. Roxanne Boss really stepped up this year. There was some transition. It was a later transition. Really did a great job of pulling things together. It was a small group that did a lot of the planning. And then on the actual night, quite a few adults showed up. It really made things run smoothly. I think she might be on vacation because I've been trying to get a specific list of all the adults that helped out that night. So I did not hear back from her for tonight, but I think it's important that we recognize them, and I'll have that I'll have that list together by the next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Sweeney. Anybody else? At this time, we'll go to Board of Education comments. Does anybody from the board like to have any comments? Brian? Is there a motion to you?
Yeah, I just want to thank the administration for all the work they've done this year. Another difficult year, maybe not as bad as the year before, but both in the budget with the 0 increase in taxes and for the students and all that they were exposed to. Thank them.
Anyone else? I'll make an announcement. I was contacted by the Bloomfield Rebosis board and asked if I would serve as the assistant vice president with the upcoming award, and I will be taking that role on starting today until the new voting happens in October. So nice representation for our district. If we have no other comments, we are going to adjourn the board meeting, but then we do have an executive session that will take place. So we're going to be resolved that the School Board of Education Whitney Point Center approve the motion to adjourn the public meeting at, let me get this right, 7:16. Do I have a motion? Thank you, Brian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
So moved, approved. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we will recess the public meeting at this time. I mean, no, we won't. We'll go to executive session. There we go.